Welcome to Learn English by Reading. I'm so glad you are here today, because this moment is more than just another chance to practice English. It's an opportunity to discover something new, to feel inspired, and to learn lessons that can change the way you think about money, life, and yourself. Today, we have a very special story, one that will take you on a journey through the life of an old man and a young boy, showing how patience, wisdom, and courage can turn even the smallest coin into something powerful. As you listen, I want you to imagine the village where the story begins, the small wooden houses, the quiet streets, and the mysterious old man who seems poor but holds a secret. Feel the curiosity of the young boy, who dares to ask questions that everyone else fears. Notice the struggles, the mistakes, and the moments of doubt. And most importantly, follow the lessons that emerge, one by one, saving, investing, protecting, and learning. By the end of this video, you won't just know a story, you'll carry the lessons in your mind and heart. You'll see how these simple ideas can change the way you think about money, life, and the choices you make every day. So, stay with me until the end. Open your heart to the story, and let's discover the old man's money secret together. Your journey to learning English and discovering life's treasures starts right now. Section 1. The Village and the Old Man. In a small, forgotten village, time seemed to move more slowly than anywhere else. The air was calm, the fields stretched wide, and people lived simple lives. Every morning the sun touched the clay roofs of the houses, and the same sounds echoed across the streets. The roosters crowing, the cows calling, the children laughing as they ran to the well. Life here was not rich in money, but it was rich in routine. Everyone knew everyone, and nothing stayed a secret for long, except for one man. At the very edge of the village stood a wooden house, old and quiet, leaning slightly as if tired from holding too many years. It was not grand. It had no bright paint, no shining windows, and no decorated gate. Yet, whenever people walked past it, they lowered their voices and whispered. Inside that house lived the old man. He was thin, his clothes were plain, and his sandals were worn from years of walking. He ate simple food, bread, rice, a few vegetables from the market. He rarely joined village festivals, and when he did, he sat at the back, smiling but saying almost nothing. To anyone passing through, he looked like the poorest man in the village. But to those who lived there, he was a mystery. For years, stories had circled about him. Some said he was once a traveler who had found treasure and hidden it. Others said he had a secret business far away that made him rich. Children imagined a chest of gold buried under his wooden floor. The adults were less certain. Some laughed and said, "If he is rich, then why does he live like this? Why not buy new clothes or a bigger house?" Others shook their heads slowly and whispered, "No, he is wise. Rich people who show their money are fools. This old man is different. He knows something we don't." The whispers spread because of one thing. No one ever saw the old man in need. He never asked to borrow food. He never looked worried when crops failed or when prices at the market rose. While many families worried about their debts, the old man seemed untouched by trouble. He walked calmly with a quiet smile that made people both curious and uncomfortable. Children followed him sometimes, hiding behind trees, hoping to see where he kept his treasure. They watched as he carried water, as he fed the stray cats that came to his door, as he sat under a tree reading an old book. But they saw nothing strange, nothing that explained the whispers. He simply lived his days with peace, as though he carried a secret that no one else could understand. This mystery divided the village. Some admired him. They said, "He has the wisdom of age. He knows how to live simply and happily." Others mocked him, calling him a fool who wasted his life in silence. But whether in admiration or in doubt, one truth united them all. The old man was different. He carried a story that no one had yet heard. On quiet nights, when the oil lamps flickered and families gathered for dinner, the talk often returned to him. "Do you think he is really rich?" one would ask. "Maybe he hides gold under his bed," another replied. A laugh would follow, but inside their hearts, even the doubters wondered, why did he live with such peace while they struggled with so many worries? For the children, the mystery was not something to argue about. It was an adventure waiting to happen. They dreamed of being the first to discover his secret, the first to uncover the truth that no adult had dared to ask directly. But while most only dreamed, one boy watched more carefully than the others. His name was John. Unlike the other children, John did not laugh when people spoke of the old man. He was poor himself, and his family often had little to eat. He noticed that the old man never seemed afraid, even when others worried about the future. John could not understand it, but he felt a quiet pull toward the man at the edge of the village. Day after day, John's curiosity grew stronger. While others were content to whisper, he wanted answers. What made this man so calm? Why did people say he was rich, even though he lived so simply? And what was the secret behind that smile that never faded? As John watched from a distance, he felt both nervous and determined. The old man seemed like a puzzle, and John had decided that one day he would be the one to solve it. The whispers would continue, the laughter would continue. But in John's heart, a new question had begun to form, stronger than the voices around him. He did not yet know it, but soon he would gather his courage, walk up to the old man's wooden house, and ask the question that no one else had dared to ask. And that simple question would change everything. Section 2. The Curious Boy. John was not like the other children in the village. While most ran around laughing and playing, he often wandered alone, his thoughts heavy and restless. Life had not been easy for him. His family had little, and some nights there was barely enough food for dinner. Still, John carried a quiet hope in his heart, a hope that one day things could be different. He dreamed of a life where he could feel safe, confident, and free from worry. Every day John watched the old man from a distance. He noticed the way the old man moved through the village, calm and unhurried, as if the weight of the world never touched him. While others hurried, shouting about markets, bills, or crops, the old man walked slowly, smiling at the smallest things. A bird perched on a fence, a flower by the path, the wind brushing through the trees. John could not understand it. How could a man live so simply and still seem so rich? The old man never spoke much to anyone, yet his presence felt comforting. Children whispered stories of hidden treasures, of gold and silver buried somewhere inside his wooden house. Adults speculated quietly, shaking their heads. But John saw something different. He saw peace. He saw joy that came without wealth, without noise, without the usual worries that filled everyone else's life. And John wanted to know how. Days turned into weeks, and John's curiosity grew stronger. He asked himself the same questions over and over. Why does he smile all the time? How can he live without fear or worry? Is he really rich? And if so, what is his secret? The questions kept him awake at night. Sometimes fear tried to stop him. What if the old man laughed at him? What if he said he was foolish for asking? But still, John felt a pull he could not resist. Finally, one afternoon, he made a decision. The sun was low, painting the village in soft gold. John's heart pounded as he walked slowly toward the old man's house. His hands trembled, and his mind raced with doubts. But something inside him whispered, "You have to ask. You need to know." He stopped at the edge of the garden where the old man was tending a few small plants. The birds sang quietly in the background, and the air smelled faintly of fresh earth. Taking a deep breath, John stepped closer. "Excuse me, sir," he said softly. I have a question." The old man looked up and met John's eyes. His smile was calm, gentle, and patient. It did not mock, it did not rush. John felt a strange comfort, as if the old man had been expecting him. Encouraged, he continued, "Why are you always smiling? And why do people say you are rich, even though you look so poor?" The old man laughed, a soft, warm sound that seemed to blend with the rustling leaves. He leaned back slightly, eyes twinkling. "Ah," he said, "I see you have been watching me for some time. You are brave to ask these questions, young man. Very brave." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I will share my secret with you," the old man continued, "but first you must promise me something. You must listen not just with your ears, but with your heart. You must understand that the lesson is about more than money. It is about life, patience, and wisdom. Can you do that?" John nodded quickly, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. His heart was racing, but he felt a strange calm settle over him, as if the old man's presence had already begun to teach him. "I promise," he whispered. The old man's smile widened, warm and approving. "Very well," he said. "Then sit with me, and I will tell you a story. A story of mistakes, lessons, and the kind of wealth that lasts longer than gold." John sank onto a small wooden bench beside him, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time, he felt that perhaps he could learn what the others had only guessed at for years. The mystery of the old man was no longer distant. It was about to unfold before him, one careful story at a time. And in that quiet moment, John realized that asking the question had already changed him. He had moved from curiosity to courage, from doubt to hope, and he was ready to listen with both his mind and his heart. The old man began to speak, and John leaned in closer, knowing that his life might never be the same again. Section 3. The Young Dreamer's Struggles. The old man leaned back slightly, letting the sunlight fall across his weathered hands. "John," he began, his voice soft but steady, "you want to know my secret. But first, you must understand where I began. My life was not always calm, not always peaceful. There was a time when I was poor, restless, and angry at the world." John listened closely, his eyes wide. He could not imagine the old man in that way. To him, the man before him seemed almost untouchable, like someone who had never known worry. But as the old man continued, John realized that beneath the calm face and quiet smile lay a past filled with struggle. "When I was young," the old man said, "I worked from sunrise to sunset. My hands were rough, my back ached, and my stomach was often empty. I thought that money was the only way to be happy. I chased it wherever I could see it, in every market, in every deal. I borrowed, I lent, I tried to earn more than I had, but it never lasted. Every coin I earned disappeared quickly, sometimes wasted, sometimes stolen, sometimes lost in foolish choices. I was impatient, angry, and always in a hurry. I believed the world owed me something, and when it did not, I felt bitter. John felt a pang in his chest. He knew that feeling. He knew the hunger that made it hard to sleep, the fear that made small problems feel enormous. He had seen his own parents struggle, worked alongside them in the fields, watched every coin spent carefully. And here was the old man, telling him he had lived the same way. I chased quick riches, the old man continued, hoping that one day everything would change. But each time I failed. I lost friends because of money. I lost trust because I acted recklessly. I even lost hope, sitting alone at night and wondering if life would ever be better. Some days I cried quietly under the stars, wishing for a miracle. I was tired, John. So tired, John leaned forward instinctively. He could feel the weight of the old man's words, the honesty that made his story feel real. This was not a tale of luck or easy success. It was a story of struggle, mistakes, and repeated failure. And yet, there was something in the old man's voice that gave John a strange kind of hope. You see, the old man said, looking at John with gentle eyes, I was once just like you, or perhaps just like every young person who wonders if the world will ever be fair. I was restless, I was hungry, I was desperate. I believed that money could solve my problems, but it could not. I believed that quick solutions would bring peace, but they never did. I learned the hard way that life does not give its lessons for free. John's mind raced. He imagined the old man not sitting here in quiet comfort, but as a young boy or young man, struggling, angry, and hungry. It was almost unbelievable. And yet, if the old man had lived through all of that, then maybe change was possible. Maybe life could be different, even for someone like John. The old man paused, letting silence fill the space between them. The wind moved through the leaves, carrying the faint scent of earth and dust. John felt a mixture of fear and hope. Fear because he recognized his own life in the story, and hope because he saw the possibility of a future where calm and strength could exist, even after hardship. I tell you this not to make you sad, the old man said quietly, but so that you understand. Wealth, peace, and happiness do not come easily. They are earned over time, through mistakes, patience, and learning. You must see the path ahead, not just the struggles around you. John nodded slowly. He could see it now. The contrast between the man before him, calm and smiling, and the boy the old man once was, restless and angry. And in that contrast, he found something precious: hope. If this old man had been lost, hungry, and hopeless once, then perhaps John could change his own story too. The sun began to lower behind the trees, casting long shadows across the village. John stayed silent, letting the old man's words sink in. He knew this was only the beginning, that more lessons were coming. But already, he felt a small spark of courage. He wanted to know how the old man had turned failure into strength, hunger into patience, and despair into wisdom. And with that spark, John realized that the story was no longer just about the old man. It could one day be his own. Section 4. The Turning Point. The old man's eyes darkened for a moment, and John noticed a shadow cross his calm expression. There was a night, the old man began, his voice low and steady, the darkest night of my life. I had no food in my stomach, no coins in my pocket, and no friends to turn to. Everything I had tried seemed to have failed. I felt completely alone. John leaned closer, drawn in by the raw honesty. He could almost feel the emptiness, the cold fear of having nothing. The old man paused, letting the weight of those words settle. "I sat under a tree," he continued, "and I cried. I had nowhere to go, no plan and no hope. I thought my life would end in poverty and despair. The wind rustled through the leaves above, and John could imagine the scene. The young man hunched against the earth, tears mixing with dust, a hopeless boy in a vast, uncaring world. The silence of that night seemed to stretch endlessly, broken only by the whisper of the old man's voice. "Then," the old man said, a small smile beginning to return, "I remembered something my father had told me long ago when I was just a child. He said, 'Money grows in the soil of patience.' At the time, I didn't understand. I thought money was simply coins, bills, or riches I could grab quickly. But sitting there that night, I began to see a deeper meaning. I realized that wealth, true wealth, is not only about money. It is about habits, discipline, and planting small seeds that will grow over time." John's eyes widened. He had never thought of money in that way. To him, money was always something to earn fast, to spend, to survive. The old man's words felt strange, almost magical, as if they carried a promise that life could be different if he chose a different path. "The night was long," the old man continued, "but as I thought about what my father had said, a small spark lit inside me. I understood that I could start again, even with nothing. I could choose to change, to be patient, to plant small seeds of action, and to care for them until they grew. I could create a life that was steady, safe, and meaningful, not by chasing quick riches, but by learning, saving, and acting wisely." He paused again, looking directly at John. "That night, I made a promise to myself. I promised that I would never give up, no matter how hard life became. I promised that I would take control of my actions, be patient with my mistakes, and start small, one step at a time. And from that moment, I began to live differently. I learned that even the tiniest coin, the smallest habit, or the simplest choice could grow into something far greater than I ever imagined." John could feel a shiver run down his spine. The contrast was so strong. The young man under the tree, broken and hopeless, and the old man sitting before him now, calm, smiling, and wise. It was hard to believe they were the same person, yet here was proof that change was possible, that even the worst nights could give birth to the first light of understanding. The old man's voice softened, full of warmth and encouragement. "I want you to remember this, John. Life will give you difficult nights. You will feel alone, hungry, or afraid. But it is in those moments that your choices matter most. The seeds you plant, your habits, your patience, your willingness to learn, will grow slowly, but they will grow. And one day, those seeds will carry you farther than you ever imagined." John nodded, absorbing every word. He could feel a flicker of hope, small but powerful, igniting in his chest. For the first time, he saw that struggle was not the end. Despair could lead to discovery. Fear could lead to courage. And even a boy with nothing could start building a future with small, careful steps. The sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon, painting the village in gold. The old man's story had shifted the air, turning weight into possibility. John knew that the journey was only beginning, but now he understood that the first step had already been taken. Inside the heart of the boy who had dared to ask, And inside the young man who had once sat under a lonely tree and decided to change his life forever. And in that quiet moment, John felt a determination he had never known before, ready to follow the path the old man was about to teach him. Section 5. The First Secret: Save Before You Spend. The old man leaned closer to John, his eyes kind but serious. "Now," he said, "let me share the first secret I learned about money. It may seem simple, even small, but it changed everything for me. The secret is this: always save before you spend. No matter how little you earn, set aside a part for yourself first." John frowned slightly. "But what if you don't have enough?" he asked, thinking of the times his own stomach had rumbled from hunger and his family had worried over every coin. The old man nodded knowingly. "Yes, at first it is very difficult. I remember the early days. I earned a few coins here and there, barely enough to buy a piece of bread. My stomach ached, my hands shook with hunger, and I wanted to spend everything I had on food, clothes, or small pleasures. The temptation felt unbearable. But I made a promise to myself. One coin would always be saved first. Every day, no matter how small, I would put a coin aside." John leaned forward, imagining it. Just one coin seemed impossible when hunger was gnawing at your belly. Yet he could see a spark of hope in the old man's eyes. "At first," the old man continued, "it was frustrating. I felt weak for not spending. I thought, why should I save when I need everything now? But slowly, I began to see the change. Those coins, one by one, began to grow. The habit taught me patience. I learned self-control. I discovered that even the tiniest effort, repeated every day, could build something stronger than any sudden gain." John pictured himself in that situation. He could almost feel the struggle, the longing to spend, the hunger, the fear that saving even a little would leave him empty. And yet, the thought of starting a habit that could grow into safety, comfort, and freedom filled him with a strange excitement. "The secret," the old man said, "is not the coin itself. The coin is small. The power lies in the act of saving. When you save first, you train yourself to control your impulses, to think ahead, to value your future more than your immediate desire. Every coin saved is a tiny seed, and like seeds in the soil, they grow slowly, but eventually they become a tree that can shelter you from storms." John nodded slowly, understanding the meaning beneath the words. It was more than money. It was a lesson about patience, discipline, and respect for one's own future. He imagined a life where he could save a little each day, where small efforts added up over time, until one day he would no longer fear hunger or want. The old man smiled softly. "I remember the first time I saw my coins grow. I had just 10 coins saved, but it felt like 10 treasures. I realized that by saying no to small temptations, I was saying yes to a better life. The feeling of control, of accomplishment, gave me more satisfaction than any sudden gain could have. And that lesson stayed with me forever." John felt a mix of fear and hope. Fear, because he knew it would be difficult for him to save even a small part when his family needed so much. Hope, because he could imagine the day when he would no longer worry about every coin, when patience and persistence would protect him and help him grow. "Remember this, John," the old man said, placing a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "Hunger today is temporary. The sacrifice of one coin is small, but the freedom it brings tomorrow is enormous. This first secret will guide you through every choice you make with money. Save first, and the rest will follow." John sat quietly, thinking about the promise he could make to himself. It was not easy, and he would feel temptation and doubt. But he understood that this small act, repeated daily, could plant the first seed of a new life. The sun was beginning to sink behind the hills, and John imagined the coins stacking up in a small jar, a simple habit turning into a source of hope and stability. For the first time, he felt a sense of control over the future, and a quiet excitement stirred within him. And as he listened to the old man's calm voice, he realized that saving before spending was not just a lesson about coins. It was the beginning of a journey toward patience, discipline, and freedom. It was the first step in learning how to turn small, careful actions into a life that no misfortune could easily shake. Section 6. The second secret: make money work for you. The old man looked at John with a serious but kind expression. "You have learned the first secret," he said, "to save before you spend. That is an important start, but saving alone is not enough. Coins hidden away in a box do not grow, they do not move, and they cannot help you build a better life. You must learn the second secret: make your money work for you." John furrowed his brow. "But how can money work for me if I don't have any?" he asked quietly. The thought of his empty pockets and the small handful of coins he sometimes earned made him feel small and unsure. The old man chuckled softly. "Ah, that is where many people misunderstand. Money is like a servant. If you chase it, it becomes your master. It controls you, it demands from you, and it disappears quickly. But if you control it, if you make it work for you, it serves you. It grows quietly, steadily, like a tree planted with care." John tried to imagine it. He pictured a tiny coin moving on its own, planting seeds, returning with more coins. But it seemed impossible. The old man's eyes twinkled, as if he could see the doubt in the boy's mind. "When I was young," the old man continued, "I started with very little. But I learned to lend my small savings to people I trusted, people who needed it for small trades or crafts. I asked them to repay what they could, slowly, over time. I also bought small goods to sell in the village. Each coin I used wisely began to return more than I had given. It took patience, careful observation, and trust. But soon, even a few coins could bring back more coins." John leaned forward, listening intently. He felt a mix of inspiration and fear. Inspiration, because he could see that one day perhaps even he could start small and grow. Fear, because he could not imagine where to start when he had almost nothing. "Think of it this way," the old man said gently. "When money is your master, you work for it. You worry about it constantly, and it disappears as fast as it comes. But when money is your servant, it works while you sleep. You put it to use wisely, and it brings more value than you could earn alone. This is how wealth grows, not by luck, not by stealing, but by patience, wisdom, and action." John closed his eyes and imagined coins moving quietly in the background, working like invisible helpers, multiplying little by little, growing stronger over time. He could almost see a future where money was not frightening or scarce, but helpful, steady, and dependable. "I know it seems impossible for a boy like you," the old man said, reading John's thoughts. "I know you feel small, that the world is too big and your pockets too empty. But remember this: even the smallest seed can grow into a large tree. Even a single coin, used wisely, can begin a journey that changes everything. You do not need to start with a fortune. You need to start with one careful choice. John's heart raced. For the first time, he felt a new kind of hope, different from the excitement of saving. This was a hope rooted in action, in the possibility of creating something, no matter how small, that could grow beyond himself. The old man smiled and placed a hand on John's shoulder. "Wealth is not just in the coin itself," he said. "It is in the knowledge of how to use it, in the patience to wait, and in the courage to take small, wise risks. Every coin you save, every coin you lend, every small choice to act wisely is a seed. Tend it carefully, and it will grow stronger than you can imagine." John looked down at his empty hands, imagining them full of coins, then planting them one by one like seeds in the soil. The thought felt strange but exciting, as if the future were suddenly alive with possibilities. He understood now that wealth was not only about having money, it was about guiding it, teaching it to work with you, and letting it grow quietly over time. The sun was beginning to dip behind the village hills, casting long shadows across the path. John sat quietly, imagining the possibilities. The lesson of the second secret had opened his mind. Money could be a servant, not a master. Even he, a poor boy, could plant seeds today that might one day grow into the life he dreamed of. And with that thought, John realized he had taken another step forward, closer to understanding not only the old man's wealth, but the wisdom that could shape his own future. The journey was still long, but now he saw a path that was possible, starting with a single careful choice. Section 7. The third secret: protect your gold. The old man's expression grew serious, and John noticed a shadow pass across his calm face. "Even the wisest of lessons," he said, "must be learned the hard way. I want to tell you about my third secret, but it comes with a warning. Wealth is fragile. It grows slowly, but it can vanish in a single careless moment." John's eyes widened. He had already learned about saving coins and making them work, but now the old man spoke of loss. "What happened?" he asked quietly, sensing the weight of the story to come. The old man sighed, remembering a time long ago. "I made mistakes, John. Many of them. When I first began to lend my coins, I trusted the wrong people, men who were greedy, impatient, or careless. They promised to repay me, but they lied, and I lost nearly everything. I had worked so hard to save and grow my small wealth, and in a single moment it seemed to disappear like smoke in the wind." John felt a chill. He imagined himself working every day, saving a single coin, and then seeing it vanish in the hands of someone who could not be trusted. The fear was real, sharp, and heavy. It made his stomach tighten and his hands ache with the thought of loss. "The lesson was painful," the old man continued, his voice quiet but steady. "I learned that money must be protected as carefully as a farmer protects his harvest. You cannot give it blindly to anyone. You cannot assume promises will always be kept. Wealth is patient, but it is also vulnerable. One mistake, one act of carelessness, and what you have built can disappear." John imagined his coins, tiny seeds he had planted in his mind, being taken away by greedy hands. He shivered, but he also felt a sense of urgency. He understood now that wealth was not only about earning and growing, it was about caution, awareness, and responsibility. "I began to change how I handled my money," the old man explained. "I learned to be careful whom I trusted. I asked questions. I observed actions, not just words. I kept my coins in safe places and made sure every investment was measured, tested, and wise. I treated each coin like a treasure, not to hoard selfishly, but to protect it until it could grow safely. And slowly, I rebuilt what I had lost, stronger than before. John felt both fear and admiration. The fear came from the reality that wealth could be stolen, lost, or wasted. The admiration came from seeing how the old man had endured betrayal, learned, and emerged wiser. He realized that mistakes were inevitable, but careful attention and patience could prevent disaster. "Remember this," the old man said firmly, placing a hand on John's shoulder. "Do not put your coins in the hands of fools. Guard your gold like a farmer guards his harvest. Protect what you have earned. Observe carefully, choose wisely, and never let impatience or greed rule your decisions. Only then can your wealth grow safely and steadily." John nodded slowly. He felt the lesson settle in his mind like a stone dropped into a quiet pond. The ripples of understanding spread, touching every thought he had about money and life. He saw now that saving and growing coins was not enough. There was a responsibility that came with even the smallest wealth, a responsibility to protect, to watch, and to act wisely. The old man's eyes softened. "Fear is a teacher, John. When you feel it, remember that it is not meant to stop you, but to guide you. Let fear remind you to be careful, to plan, and to guard your efforts. Only then will the seeds you have planted survive the storms and flourish." John imagined himself one day holding his own small jar of coins, guarding it as a treasure, checking carefully whom he trusted, and learning to balance hope with caution. The lesson was not easy, and it carried weight, but it was necessary. Without it, all the effort of saving and growing could vanish in an instant. The sun was low in the sky, painting the village with gold and shadow. John sat silently, absorbing the old man's words. The story of loss and recovery had shown him another side of wealth, a side that required wisdom, vigilance, and patience. He understood that real freedom and safety came not just from earning or saving, but from protecting what he had earned. And in that quiet moment, John realized that the journey of learning about money was more than coins or trade. It was a journey of careful choices, thoughtful actions, and respect for what is fragile. He felt ready to hear the next lesson, knowing that wisdom would be the key to turning seeds into lasting strength. Section 8. The fourth secret knowledge is wealth. The old man leaned back on the wooden bench, his eyes reflecting a gentle light as he looked at John. "You have learned to save, to make your money work, and to protect it," he said. "But there is one more secret, the most important of all. True wealth is not coins, John. True wealth is knowledge." John blinked, unsure at first. He had been thinking about coins, jars of savings, and tiny seeds of money growing. "Knowledge?" he asked quietly. "How can learning make me rich?" The old man smiled softly, almost like a father comforting a child. "Listen carefully," he said. "When I was young, I knew little. I could count my coins, but I did not understand how to use them well. I could trade, but I did not know which risks were wise. I could save, but I did not know how to grow my money safely. I was like a blind man holding a treasure he could not see. It was knowledge that opened my eyes and showed me the path." John leaned forward, his curiosity growing. The idea that learning could be more valuable than gold seemed strange, yet exciting. "I began reading," the old man continued. "Books, letters, anything I could find. I asked questions, even to people older and wiser than me. I listened more than I spoke. Slowly, I learned how money worked, how people acted, and how life rewarded patience and care. Every lesson I learned made my small savings safer. Every insight was like adding armor to my coins, protecting them and helping them grow. John could imagine it vividly. The young man, sitting by a candle at night, reading carefully, asking questions, learning from mistakes. Each new idea, each new understanding added strength, not only to his money but to himself. The greatest treasure, the old man said softly, is not a chest of gold, but the mind that knows how to use it. Knowledge cannot be stolen easily, it cannot disappear overnight, and it grows stronger the more you use it. A wise person can turn a single coin into many because he understands the rules of life, trade, and human behavior. Knowledge is the foundation of all wealth. John felt a shiver of realization. He had thought coins were the goal, but now he saw that coins alone could vanish. Without understanding, without wisdom, money was fragile. Learning, reading, and asking questions could build something far stronger than any treasure chest. A mind capable of creating opportunity, solving problems, and making careful, powerful choices. I want you to understand this, John, the old man said, his voice growing softer, almost fatherly. Your mind is your greatest wealth. Read books, ask questions, observe the world, learn from everyone you meet. Knowledge will guide your actions, protect your earnings, and help you grow in ways coins alone never can. The habits you form, the lessons you learn, they are treasures no one can take from you. John nodded slowly. He could picture himself sitting with a book, asking questions, learning about life, money, and people. He realized that even if he had nothing now, he could begin building wealth with his mind. The idea filled him with hope, a deep, lasting hope that reached farther than any coins in a jar. The old man smiled, seeing the spark of understanding in John's eyes. Remember, John, he said, we are never too poor to start learning. Every day is a chance to gain knowledge, to become wiser, and to turn that wisdom into action. Coins may come and go, but knowledge will last your whole life. John felt a quiet excitement. For the first time, he saw a path that did not depend on luck, inheritance, or sudden fortune. He could start now, step by step, learning, questioning, growing. Every small effort would multiply, not just in money, but in skill, confidence, and wisdom. He looked up at the old man and asked, "Old man, did all these secrets make you rich?" The old man's eyes twinkled with a soft light. "Ah, John," he said, "you are about to see the true meaning of richness." In that moment, John understood that the journey was not over. The secrets of money, patience, protection, and knowledge were only the beginning. True wealth, he realized, was about more than coins. It was about learning, growing, and building a life that could weather any storm. And with that thought, he leaned closer, ready to hear the answer that had taken a lifetime to learn. Section 9. The Hidden Treasure. John's heart raced as he followed the old man toward the back of the wooden house. For days he had imagined a chest overflowing with gold coins, glittering jewels, and treasures beyond measure. He could see it clearly in his mind. The coins stacked high, the light reflecting off every shiny surface. Surely, this was the moment when the old man would reveal his secret fortune. But when they reached the back door, John froze. There was no chest, no vault, no glittering treasure. Instead, there was a small garden, simple but vibrant. Rows of fruit trees swayed gently in the breeze. Chickens pecked happily at the ground. A few children from the village played quietly, carrying notebooks and pencils, listening intently to the old man's teachings. The air smelled sweet with flowers and fresh earth. John looked at the old man, confused. This is your treasure?" he asked softly. The old man smiled, a warm, calm smile that seemed to hold years of understanding. "Yes, John," he said, "this is my treasure. Money gave me freedom to make choices, to live safely, and to plant the seeds I needed. But wisdom gave me peace. I am rich not because of gold, but because I learned how to live." John felt his chest tighten. He had expected glitter and shine, coins and riches, and yet the treasure before him felt far more valuable. The trees, the chickens, the laughter of children, the quiet hum of life, everything radiated abundance, stability, and care. He realized that the old man's wealth was not measured in coins, but in freedom, knowledge, and the ability to share with others. The old man continued, his voice soft and steady. "I have learned that real treasure cannot be stolen, cannot be hidden, and cannot be lost in a single night. My garden, these children, the lessons I share, they are the true wealth. Every coin I saved, every choice I made, every lesson I learned led me here to a life I am proud to live. This is richness beyond measure." John walked slowly among the trees, reaching out to touch the rough bark and the smooth fruits. He felt the dirt beneath his fingers and smelled the fresh air. It was simple, quiet, and full of life, and in that simplicity, he could see the power of the lessons the old man had shared: saving, investing wisely, protecting wealth, and seeking knowledge. Every act had been a seed planted in the soil, and now it had grown into something far greater than gold could ever buy. He watched the children taking notes, asking questions, and laughing softly when the old man made them smile. He realized that the old man's treasure was not only for himself, it was a gift to the village, to those who wanted to learn, to those who sought freedom through wisdom. John understood that this treasure would continue to grow, passed from one mind to another, multiplying quietly like the fruit on the trees. The old man's eyes met John's, gentle and knowing. "Do you see now, John?" he asked. "Wealth is not just coins. It is freedom, patience, and knowledge. It is the ability to live a life you choose, to help others, and to find peace in every day. Money can buy comfort, but wisdom brings meaning. This is the real treasure." John nodded slowly, feeling a mixture of awe, surprise, and deep understanding. He had expected something material, something shiny, but what he found was far more powerful. The treasure was life itself, nurtured with care, guided by patience, and shared with others. For the first time, John saw wealth not as something to chase, but as something to build carefully, grow steadily, and protect wisely. He understood that freedom and peace were the richest rewards of all. The lessons of saving, investing, guarding, and learning had led to this moment, this garden, this life, this treasure that could never vanish. As the sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow over the garden, John felt a quiet determination settle in his heart. One day, he would plant his own seeds, nurture them with care, and perhaps share his own garden with others. The old man's secret was no longer just a story. It was a path, a way of life that John now understood. And in the gentle hum of the garden, surrounded by life and learning, John realized that he had already begun to inherit the old man's wealth, not in coins, but in wisdom, hope, and the courage to grow. Section 10. The Boy's New Journey. John stepped out of the old man's wooden house with a new sense of wonder. The village looked the same. The narrow dirt paths, the small houses, the market stalls. But he felt different. Something inside him had changed. The lessons he had learned from the old man were not just words. They were seeds planted deep in his heart. He felt a quiet determination, a spark of courage that had never been there before. At first, John began with small steps. Each day, he saved a single coin from the little work he could find. Sometimes it was difficult. His stomach ached with hunger, and his friends teased him for being cautious with money. But he remembered the old man's words. One coin is a seed. Patience turns it into a tree, and small, careful choices grow into freedom. Slowly, the jar on his shelf began to fill, each coin a reminder of discipline and hope. John also turned to books. At first, reading was hard. Some words were strange, and some ideas felt too big for a poor boy like him. But he persevered. Every page taught him something new about people, about life, about ways to use his small savings wisely. He asked questions whenever he could and paid attention to those who shared knowledge freely. With each lesson, he felt stronger, not just in mind, but in spirit. He began to notice a change in himself. Fear that had once held him back, the fear of hunger, failure, and the unknown, started to shrink. He still worried at times, still stumbled, but the fear no longer controlled him. Each day of saving, learning, and acting with care added a quiet confidence. He realized that true strength was not in luck or sudden fortune, but in steady action, patience, and the courage to grow slowly, step by step. Sometimes, John thought of the old man's garden, the fruit trees, the chickens, the children learning under the sun. He imagined his life as a garden too, small at first, but capable of growing with attention, care, and time. He knew that if he nurtured his own habits and knowledge, he could build a life filled with purpose and freedom. Coins, books, and careful choices became the tools he used to cultivate his future. One evening, as John sat on the edge of the village, he whispered to himself, almost as if the words could shape reality. The old man's money secret is not about gold. It is about wisdom, patience, and the courage to grow. He felt a deep sense of clarity. The old man had shown him that wealth was more than coins. It was understanding, discipline, and hope. And for the first time, John could see the path forward clearly. He also began sharing small lessons with his friends and younger children in the village. Sometimes it was teaching them to save a coin, sometimes showing them a book he had read, or helping them understand how small choices could lead to greater freedom. John realized that learning and growth were not just for himself. They could spread like light, touching others and multiplying quietly, just as the old man's garden had done. The village no longer seemed like a place that limited him. It was full of possibilities, small at first, but capable of growing into something greater. John understood that every day was an opportunity to plant seeds, coins saved, knowledge gained, habits formed, that could shape his life and even the lives of those around him. As the sun set, painting the village in gold and shadow, John felt a quiet peace. He remembered the old man's words about patience, about guarding treasures, and about using knowledge wisely. He knew the journey ahead would not always be easy. There would be mistakes, losses, and challenges, but he also knew that with patience, wisdom, and courage, he could face anything and continue growing. And in that calm moment, John smiled, feeling the weight of fear lift and the strength of hope take its place. The boy who had once been restless, poor, and uncertain now carried a sense of purpose within him. The seeds of the old man's lessons had taken root, and the garden of his own life had begun to grow. To you listening now, the narrator whispers, you can start too. Every small coin saved, every lesson learned, every careful choice is a step toward freedom. No matter how little you have today, wisdom, patience, and courage can grow your own treasure. And like John, you can plant the seeds that will shape your life, one step at a time. Thank you for listening and following along with today's story. John's journey from a curious, restless boy to someone who understands the true meaning of wealth is a powerful reminder that patience, knowledge, and courage matter more than coins. Saving, making your money work, protecting it, and learning every day. These are lessons we can all take into our lives. The story shows that real richness is not about gold alone, but about building habits, gaining wisdom, and growing step by step. If you felt inspired today, remember that you can start immediately. Even the smallest actions matter. Save a little, read a little, learn a little, and act with care. Each tiny step is a seed that can grow into something far greater than you imagine. Just like John, you have the power to shape your future with the choices you make now. And because we want to help you grow every day, we upload a new story every single day. Each video is designed to improve your reading, listening, and understanding of English while inspiring you to live better, think deeper, and dream bigger. So, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share these lessons with friends and family who could use a spark of inspiration. Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember, your journey of growth, wisdom, and courage begins with the choices you make today. We'll see you in the next story, ready to learn, ready to grow, and ready to discover your own treasures.